couple of really cool cars from your collection.
I did, yes,
and
sir.
it's not their first trip to Barrett-Jackson.
No, it's not. So,
The NASCAR world thought it was just another normal race week. Fans were preparing for the Indy 500. Drivers were focused on qualifying. Everything felt routine. And then, out of nowhere, the entire motorsports community was hit with news nobody saw coming. Kyle Busch was gone. At just 41 years old, one of NASCAR's most fearless and controversial drivers had suddenly passed away, leaving fans shocked, confused, and desperately searching for answers. For years, Busch had built a reputation as the villain of the racetrack, aggressive, ruthless, unapologetic. But in the hours after his death, something unexpected happened. Rivals stopped being rivals, critics became supporters, and the entire racing world united to honor a man many believed would live forever behind the wheel. But what happened just 3 days later at the Indy 500 became one of the most emotional moments motorsports fans had seen in years. The tributes started before the race even began. Fans arriving at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway immediately noticed something different. Kyle Busch's famous number 18 was suddenly everywhere, not in a loud or flashy way. It was subtle, emotional, almost haunting. Driver Romain Grosjean rolled onto the track in a car carrying the number Sherbat, using the same style and font Busch made legendary during his years with Joe Gibbs Racing. For longtime NASCAR fans, the meaning hit instantly. This wasn't just a tribute. It was a farewell from one generation of racers to another. Then came lap 18. As the race continued at full speed, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway scoring pylon suddenly displayed Busch's number. The crowd fell silent. Thousands of fans stopped cheering, crews paused, drivers lowered their heads. For a few seconds, one of the loudest sporting events in America became completely quiet. And honestly, that moment shook people, because Kyle Busch wasn't just another driver. He was one of those athletes people assumed would always be around. Love him or hate him, NASCAR without Kyle Busch felt almost impossible to imagine. But that wasn't even the full story. As tributes flooded in, fans began revisiting the incredible career Busch had built over more than 2 decades. And the numbers behind his legacy almost didn't feel real. Over 230 NASCAR victories, championships across multiple series, countless rivalries, countless controversies, and moments that turned him into one of the most talked about names in racing history. Kyle Busch never raced carefully. He raced like every lap was personal. That's what made fans obsessed with him. Some respected him, others couldn't stand him, but nobody ignored him. He became famous for pushing limits, starting fights, speaking his mind, and delivering unforgettable finishes under pressure. While other drivers played it safe with media interviews and polished answers, Busch said exactly what he felt. Sometimes it made headlines for the wrong reasons, but it also made him unforgettable. That intensity became part of his. Marcus Smith, CEO of Speedway Motorsports, even called Busch a once-in-a-generation talent while honoring him at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And honestly, few fans disagreed. Busch had become bigger than NASCAR itself. He represented an era of racing where personalities felt raw and real. But behind all the trophies and rivalries, there was another side of Kyle Busch most casual fans barely knew existed. Away from the track, Busch's life looked completely different. Instead of screaming engines and heated arguments, there were family vacations, Disney trips, football games with his son Brexton, quiet moments with wife Samantha, and photos holding his daughter Lennox in the garage before races. For years, Samantha Busch shared glimpses of their family life online, and fans slowly saw a softer side of Kyle that cameras rarely captured during races. He wasn't just the aggressive driver people booed on Sundays. He was also a father completely obsessed with his kids. and Brexton especially became a huge part of his world. Fans loved watching Busch celebrate victories with his son beside him in victory lane. Some even joked that Brexton looked destined to become the next Busch racing star. Kyle constantly supported his son's early racing career, showing up proudly at events and championships. That's why the reaction from fans became even more emotional after the news broke. Suddenly, old family photos started spreading everywhere online. Interviews resurfaced. Moments people forgot about suddenly felt heartbreaking. And then reports about the final days before his death started emerging. According to early reports, Busch had reportedly passed out while testing in a Chevrolet racing simulator on May 20. Several sources claimed he became unresponsive and was rushed to a hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina. At first, details were extremely leaned. The following day, his family revealed he was
Ladies and
hospitalized with
gentlemen,
what they
today is the
described
day.
only as a
We
severe
finished
illness.
inside the top 8, and you
Almost
know what that
immediately,
means.
social
Our
media exploded with speculation. Fans began wondering if there was more to the story. Some questioned whether the simulator session somehow played a role. Others believed the situation had been far worse than anyone initially realized. To be clear, many of those online theories were never confirmed, and officials never suggested the simulator itself caused his condition. But because everything unfolded so quickly, rumors spread fast across NASCAR communities online. Then came the devastating confirmation. NASCAR released a statement alongside Busch's family announcing his death. And the wording hit fans hard. Blanda future Hall of Famer, a rare talent, gone far too soon. Yeah, those phrases instantly made the situation feel real in a way fans had been struggling to process. And what happened next made the tragedy even more heartbreaking. Just 2 days later, Busch's family revealed his official cause of death. Severe pneumonia had reportedly progressed into sepsis, creating overwhelming complications in an incredibly short period of time. Fans were stunned. Not because pneumonia isn't dangerous, but because many people simply didn't realize how quickly it could become life-threatening. Especially for someone who appeared active, competitive, and constantly traveling, online discussions exploded again. Some fans admitted they initially thought the early reports were fake because Busch had looked healthy so recently. Others pointed out how suddenly everything escalated, from hospitalized to tragic loss within hours. And sadly, that sudden timeline made the entire situation feel even more terrifying for many people watching unfold in real time. But while the internet focused on questions and speculation, people closest to Busch focused on something else entirely, honoring him. Tributes poured in from every corner of the racing world. Jimmy Johnson honored him. Tony Stewart shared emotional words. Danica Patrick joined others, remembering Busch not just as a driver, but as one of the fiercest competitors they had ever seen. At Charlotte Motor Speedway, giant screens displayed Busch's image as crowds stood silently in remembrance. During the North Carolina Education Lottery 200, fans and crews paused for another emotional moment of silence. And strangely, many longtime NASCAR fans admitted something unexpected afterward. And for years, Kyle Busch had been the guy fans loved to root against. He embraced the villain role better than almost anyone in modern racing. But after his death, people realized just how much energy and personality he brought to the sport. Without him, NASCAR suddenly felt quieter, less chaotic, less emotional, less unpredictable. And maybe that's the biggest sign of how important he truly was. Because the greatest sports figures aren't always the most loved. Sometimes they're the ones impossible to replace. Even now, fans continue revisiting old interviews, classic rivalries, and iconic finishes from Busch's career. Younger drivers still talk about learning from him, and many believe his influence on modern NASCAR will continue for decades. But perhaps the most emotional part of this story is realizing nobody, knew they were watching Kyle Busch's final chapter while it was happening. Fammed, no farewell tour, no final, goodbye race, no warning. Bond, just one ordinary week that suddenly became the end of an era. No, and 3 days later, under the noise and chaos of the Indy 500, thousands of people stopped to honor a driver whose impact reached far beyond NASCAR itself. Balan, because whether fans cheered for Kyle Busch or booed him every Sunday, they never imagined the track would have to move forward without him.